My name is Brianna, and I welcome you to the Tales of Adventure, a D&D podcast like no other. Pardon me, do you mind if I join you? Bart is pretty full.
Aye, yeah, just take a seat. Why not? More the merrier.
That's exactly what I say. My name is Istrada, by the way.
Kildran.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Now, what brings you to this bar?
It's been a long day. I've been helping out some old friends of mine in this area, and got into a bit of trouble, and I'm just ready to take a drink and forget about it.
Fair enough. I've been there. Oi, so many times. Oh, like today I'm currently on my travels, still trying to find my brother after we split up. But by my luck, trouble always follows, or I end up getting stuck in it.
I find that happens often, especially with people who tend to chase after an adventure.
Yeah, true.
So you said you're looking for your brother? What happened?
Yeah, so it's quite a long story. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to start at the beginning.
Always a good place to begin.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, we both came from our home in the mountains. We grew up together. Obviously, it makes sense. We're twins, by the way.
Not very often you meet Dwarven twins.
No, I'm the eldest by I don't remember how much. I am older though. He holds it against me. But as we were growing up, we'd get into all sorts of trouble. That's how we ended up getting onto the path that we're on at the minute. Is like we'd explore the different places in the mountain, going around where Dad told us not to go, finding all sorts of like ancient buried treasure and things like that, and creatures, traps. Oh, it was great.
Those creatures and traps are probably why he didn't want you going there.
Yeah, but he's always been more of a bookworm. Fenrik took more after him, to be fair. Although, like, that's why he became. He took up the mantle of chronicler, the same as Dad did. I stuck with good old fashioned fighting. I've been much better at that.
Both noble professions. I don't know if I would quite have the patience for being a chronicler, and I much more prefer to be in the middle of things, though I do enjoy chasing the truth of a tale or two.
Yeah, they can be entertaining at times. I've never been one for writing things down. My brother, he always took a book around with him, writing everything down. That's why we set off together originally. Once we hit our 70th birthday together, we decided we needed to. He decided he was going to make his journey to find new tales to chronicle and bring them back to our homestead. But I know what he's like. He won't be able to take care of himself. He needs someone to defend him, which is why I went. Got in a few scrapes a lot along the way. We did for a while. We were actually part of like a traveling gladiator troupe, which was fun.
Those are interesting indeed. Would it be a troop I know?
Oh no, it didn't. From what I remember, we didn't really have a name. It was just sort of I guess it was kind of half like entertainment, half mercenaries, if that makes sense. It was more of like there was just a big group of us that would travel around from town to town. We'd help solve problems, working as guards, or like if there was a problem, like I don't know, say one of those creatures were bothering the town or whatever. We're passing through. They'd talk to us. We'd solve the problem.
I've been with a band like that a time or two.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting lifestyle.
It is. I've been in a few. I've since split up from them when it got to a point where the troop ended up having to go a different direction than me and Fenrik, so we had to say our goodbyes, which is bad and good, but it was annoying leaving Drac behind. But I didn't mention him. Drac, he was a half orc. He was part of the gladiator band. That's why I actually know some Orcish now, although that was mainly because him and Fenrik could speak it fluently, and they took to insulting me in it. So I only know insults.
Well, it's a good thing to know.
Yep, it's always useful to know.
I had a traveling companion that would tell me you should be able to insult someone from every race.
Yep.
Because if you're ever in a fight with them, you get them angry, you make them stupid.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Useful trick unless it's a barbarian, and in that case, you doesn't always work out like you want it to.
no. I know quite a bit of my fighting style is just, like when something gets under your skin and you just axe them until they stop.
Want to a blinding
Yeah.
rage?
So much fun.
I didn't peg you at first for having a fighting style, but I guess makes sense.
When I first started, it was pretty much just the angry hitting things. That was before I discovered my magic powers, you see. So, yes. You'll notice the hat.
Magic.
It's I think the powers come from the hat, to be honest. But I'll get to that tale in a bit. That comes a bit later on. So, me and Fenrik end up leaving Drac and the others of the gladiator troop. We ended up keeping on. The last time I saw my brother, we were at one of the coastal towns. I cannot remember which one now. It was so long ago, and I've taken a few knocks to the head since. We did part and say that we would see each other again, which I still hold to be true. I know that that's going to happen. It's just finding each other, because he decided, in his infinite wisdom, that the best place to find more tales to chronicle was to get on a ship and travel to one of the other continents. Now, this is where I called him foolish, because personally, I say the same as Dad and our uncle have always said, which was, if dwarves were supposed to cross the ocean, we'd have been born with fins. Now, I don't see any fins, so I ain't traveling across a giant set of water, if that makes sense. It's like why would I do that?
Ocean travel is actually quite nice if you give it a try.
Uh, I've made friends later on that have found different ways of traveling, which I much prefer, but it's getting to the point where I'm worried that maybe to find Fenrik, I am going to have to get on one of those terrible wooden floating houses. Oh,
If you ever have to, I can point you in the direction of some ship captains who have slightly nicer vessels than the ones you're probably thinking about.
that would be nice.
Get you there much faster, too.
Oh, less time. That means less time having to be blind drunk in order to ignore the fact that I'm stuck in the middle of a giant puddle. Oh, that would be great. I will have to ask you about those in a bit. But yeah, so far, I'm holding out hope that he will come back. Although my friend Rictus has said he's going to help me find him once we're finished doing what we're doing. We're sort of keeping an eye out as we go. But again, he's another one that's going to come later. I told you this story was long.
I have plenty of time.
Well, that's good, because I've got plenty of story and quite a bit of ale. So Fenrik actually gave me this drinking horn before we parted as well. It was his. He asked me to keep hold of it until we met again. So then that's one of the reasons why I know we are going to see each other again, because I know him, and as much as he can be a wimp at times, he's still one for his drink as much as I am. So I know for a fact he's going to want this.
Good point. It's a very nice one as well.
He always said it was enchanted. I have no idea. I'm only recently into the magic thing, so I'm not at a point where I can tell yet, but I'm working on it.
Sometimes people enchant them, so it's a possibility.
Anyway, like after Fenrik left on the horrible ship, I ended up traveling a bit by myself and joined a different group of adventurers. We were part of a mercenary guild, and that's leading up to where I got my hat that gave me my magic powers, actually. So what happened was we were tasked with there was a few of us. There was uh no the alcohol making me forget names again. I've never been good with names. That's my only problem. Like, I remember what people look like, what they do, but then asking me to remember names, and I always forget. The only reason I remember Fenrik is because I grew up with him, and Rictus because I'm still with him at the minute. He's just popped off somewhere. So, yeah.
You were not the first adventurer to forget names.
No.
Sometimes I work with quite a few of them. May or may not be
Yeah.
intentional.
I remember. So, when we started off, there was me, there was a druid last name Kimber, there was my friend wizard named Jose.
Interesting name for the wizard.
There was another fella who didn't stick around for long. I honestly can't remember his name, but he wasn't there for a while, so that's probably why. But we ended up getting tasked to go into this tomb that belonged to a lich.
That's never fun.
No. We ended up getting tasked to retrieve this orb. Now, I remember going in. We went in as a group of four of us. Four? Five? Four, yeah. It's because we ended up making a few more friends along the way as well. So, we went in. I remember the fella outside made rat sandwiches. It was very strange. He wasn't that good at it either. Like, I could make better rat sandwiches. I tried, but he didn't like the taste. So, I guess he's used to his own recipe.
That's my favorite thing to eat.
Yeah. All right. At a push. I mean, I'd rather eat something a bit more substantial, but when you've been traveling for that long, you get used to making do, don't you?
That's why I keep a druid around. They're really good at finding stuff.
Yes, that was one great thing about Kimber, and that is why I'm glad Tia came along later on. But I'll get to her. She hasn't turned up yet. So what happened was me, Kimber, Jose, and the other fellow that I cannot remember the name of. We all ended up entering this tomb to fetch this orb. We ended up coming across. Oh, what happened? There's a load of undead there, as you would expect in a tomb like that.
Of course.
I remember we ended up coming across this. Oh, he was like a giant, but big and blue, and he had big pointy teeth, and everyone was cautious about him, but I thought it was alright. He gave me an axe. Yeah, I thought it was alright at the time, anyway.
I'm guessing
Like,
it wasn't.
turned out to be a bit off, but that comes a bit later down the line. He this time when we first met him, it was pretty decent of him because I mean the first thing we did was I walked around the corner and blindly threw one of my hand axes into the room, which almost hit him directly in the face. But he had a talk with us, asked if I wanted to try some of his soup, which I did. Tasted weird.
Surprised if it wasn't poisoned.
I think I threw up. I think, looking back at it, knowing what I do now, it may have just been ground up flesh.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I think that's why none of the others wanted to touch it, but hey, I'm always one for trying new things. I thought we ended up making friends. I got a cool axe out of it. It was great. So we left him and we continued on our way trying to find this orb. At one point, there was a steam pipe that looked at me funny because it tried to win a staring competition with me.
Are you sure that was a steam pipe and not perhaps something else?
No, it was a steam pipe. Everyone else told me so. I could have sworn it was looking at me, though.
Drugs.
Drugs?
Probably.
No, I don't know. There was one point in this when Jose disappeared for a while, and then he turned up and he was acting really weird. Like, he was being like, oh, yes, we need to go and come on. And I can't really do his voice, but it was kind of like, "Hey, let's go, and we should go down this way. It's obviously not a trap," which wasn't like him.
Anyone who says something is obviously not a trap is leading you into a trap.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured. That's what we all figured, which is why we ended up taking a different route around the side of where he was trying to say. And then he vanished again. We found this giant vault room that had, it was sort of like this dining hall, right? That we're in. The dining hall of the tavern, except it was about 3 times as high and twice as long. And there were chains hanging down everywhere and things. And we heard what sounded like Jose's voice, but then it sort of changed. And then Jose's head came down from up there with his hat, and followed by a chain devil.
Nasty little bastards.
Yeah. The Jose that was like, "Come on, it's not a trap." It turned out that he was the chain devil
Ah,
in disguise. That's why I've got these. Hold on, let me look in the bag. 2 heads.
carry around 2 heads in your bag of holding.
Yes. So this one is Jose, and this one is the chain devil that looks like Jose. It's really hard to tell which one's which, but I think this one's Jose.
Mildly disgusting.
Well, you gotta honor them somehow. Put them back. Hold on. Oh shit! Don't. But that's also why, to honor my fallen friend Jose, I took his hat and I put it on my head, and that's why I wear this wizard sombrero that you see before you.
I've been wondering about that.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, it gave me powers, but that'll come a bit later. So after we fought the chain devil and we won, I took his head as well. No, wait. I've just remembered an extra bit of this. There was a chain devil and there was a doppelganger. It's the doppelganger's head that I've got.
Doppelgangers. That what those?
Yeah, so that was what was being Jose, and he was working for the chain devil. That was it. So we killed the chain devil, and the thing. There's parts of this I don't remember because I was using my new axe, which later on I found out that the axe was cursed. So explains a bit, because ever since I got the axe, there's these little bits in my memory that just sort of go blank until I got rid of it. Well, I say got rid of it, I lost it, which was unfortunate.
Probably more fortunate than you realize. Cursed weapons have nasty consequences.
Yeah, it was annoying, but what can you do? The good thing is I do still have my old axe. Let me show you. Right. This is my standard battle axe. Now, this silver plate on the back here, this is a bit that we had to add to it. And I'll explain in a little bit. Let me leave the axe on the table. Barkeep, don't mind the axe. I'm telling a story.
Don't
It's
worry
alright.
about him. He's with me.
Yeah. It's fine. I'm sure they'll be fine. Right. So, where was I? We'd fought the chain devil. Right. We went up. We managed to find where the orb was, and this lich turns up.
Never a fun turn of events. I've been there.
There was one fella that was with us. There was 5.
Did you finally remember?
That's the problem. Like I said, the blackouts I had because of this axe, my memory of this time is a little bit hazy.
Understandable.
I've just remembered that because we got up there and we had this paladin fella with us, and what happened was he tried to challenge the lich and got vaporized.
Yeah, I would assume so. It's unfortunate, but you don't run into that head-on.
No. The rest of the people I was with ended up having a chat with the lich, and we actually ended up on halfway decent terms to say he was a lich. So he let us take the orb, because we figured out how to hold it because we had these special gloves. So we ended up taking the orb and leaving, but unfortunately, that's apparently exactly what he wanted us to do.
Never trust a lich.
Yeah. Because then that awakened this great, big, massive white dragon.
Never good.
Yeah. We ended up running back to our the home base where the mercenary guild was, and the place had collapsed. On the way, this is where, like, once I got out of the tomb, this is where I realized Jose may have gifted me his magic powers. because as we were going down, there was some stuff in the way. And when I moved my hands like he used to and said, Shabom! And things moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'd love to examine the enchantment on that hat at some point if you would not mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, hold on. Here you go. I'll pop that on the table next to the axe. Right. So you can have a look at that while I continue.
Works for me. This spell might take a minute. Don't worry, I can cast and listen at the same time.
Awesome. Right. So we ended up heading back down to where the guild was. And we did find some survivors. We found Belgrax, who is a Dragonborn. I remember he's one of the dark grey Dragonborn.
I haven't run into too many of them.
Hold on. I've just realized I didn't explain. Right. So, you know, there's 5 different types of dragons, right? There's white, there's black, there's blue, there's light grey, and there's dark grey, right?
Yes.
So he's one of the dark grey ones. He kept saying red, so I presume it's red. That's what they call that shade of grey. Right. We never covered the other one, so I presume that's still light grey. But yeah. Anyway, because when we met him, we kept talking about this dragon that had appeared, and he kept worrying that I was going to think it was him that did it. I'm not entirely sure why. I knew for a fact that it wasn't him because the other one was massive and white, and he was small and grey, right?
Yes. And some people are not the smartest when it comes to telling the difference between dragons and dragonborn.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you thought I'd be one of those people. Like, I'm not. I've seen Dragonborn before. I've met loads of different people. I think he was just worried because, like, it was the first time we'd met, and I was already telling him about the staring competition with a pipe. I think it threw him off. He was a bit too serious at times, Belgrax. But he ended up joining us, and we figured out that one of the ways that we had to solve this problem, we ended up talking to the town and the leader of the what would he be called? Mayor? No. Yes. Leader of a town and mayor.
Depending on the size of the town, mayor is typical.
Right. Okay, we'll go with mayor. I've met a few and they all call themselves different things. I'm just trying to whatever the colloquialism is. So, mayor, right. So, what it would be is like we met up with him, told him what had happened. Although I remember Kimber specifically not telling him that we may have woken up the dragon.
It's not the best way to start the conversation. Especially if the person who you're talking to has been negatively impacted by the dragon you woke up.
Mm-hmm. This is also why we didn't tell Belgrax until much later. Because, unfortunately, he was in the guild hall and he lost a few of his friends when the dragon turned up. We didn't find this out till later, though, so, yeah. Like I said to him, and like I said to the townsfolk, when we went up to the balcony, the mayor, he told the townsfolk that had survived, he was like, oh, this adventuring party has volunteered to try and get rid of the problem of this dragon. And I remember Kimber and Belgrax being a bit on edge, being like, no, wait a minute. But I know what they thought at heart. So I stood up and I said, we are here and we will kill this dragon for you. We are mighty and we will kill it. Something like that.
I imagine your companions were so thrilled about that.
They had mixed results. They seemed a bit off with me, but I thought that hey, they'll come around. Like, it's what we do. We find problems, we solve them. Simple as. So we ended up going a bit further on. We had a fight with some bandits who then came out, and I had another blackout. Afterwards, I got told that I threw an axe at Belgrax, and I don't remember doing that, so I don't know why. And then I remember us walking for a bit through some fog, and we ended up in this strange new place where all the coins were different, and it was run by a vampire.
Oh my.
Oh, what's his name?
Wouldn't happen to be Strahd, would it?
Yes, that's him.
Oh,
That's the one.
Lord, I thought I got rid of him. He keeps coming back.
Yeah, it's weird, and we ended up going to this town, and on the way there, we met Tia, the other druid of our party, and a little dwarven fella called Tome, and they were all a bit. This is where the party were a bit, shall we say, insensitive to dwarven tradition, or at least from where I'm from, ale is for people of all ages. It's always has been. I mean, you control how much the younguns would have. They need to build up the same kind of liver as I would have, for example. But they wouldn't let him have any ale at all, and I thought that was terrible. So I kept trying to give him ale, and they kept telling me off for it.
Different races aren't quite as hardy when it comes to the ale.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But yeah, no, they were fun. They joined us. Unfortunately, we had to get on a boat to cross this giant lake because it would take us too long to get round. And so I had to get blind drunk in order to get on this boat because I already saw I hate boats. I hate boats. I hate water.
Perhaps you should have someone cast a sleep spell on you next time. Makes traveling much more pleasant.
Yeah. Well, next time I can do it on myself. I'll try. That's one that I need to learn. I'll try and cast a sleep spell on myself. See if that works.
Casting on yourself is a little tricky. Also, here is your hat bag. It's very special.
Ah,
I've
thank you.
never seen anything like it.
Yeah. Well, it is a special hat. Anyway, so we got over the never trust a body of water where you can't see the other side. It makes no sense to have a body of water that takes that much room. Like a river, fine. Like a small pond or like a small lake, fine. Big lake like that, no, 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 no. But we had to cross it.
Fortunately, my friend, the world does not need our permission to exist the way it does. It just chooses to be as ridiculous as it wants to be.
I wish someone would change it, but I don't know how to do that.
The monster died. It did not end
Oh,
well.
fair enough. I'll I'll have to ask Rictus about that one. I'll ask you about that later.
Very old story.
How long are you sticking around?
Idea, honestly. Assuming depends on how much trouble my acquaintances get in, and when I hear back from a certain missive I sent to a friend.
Oh, okay. Well,
There's an interesting situation that's come up with some old gods that I would like to keep an eye on.
ooh, that sounds fun.
And don't worry, it's very far from here.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, if you ever need another axe, then I'm always willing for more adventure. But it's only fair that I finish my tale first before starting to question about yours. So we crossed this lake, right? And we got to these towns. Had a few different things happen. There was, let's see, there was a bit where me and Tome went to have a look at this shop, and he went into the shop and came back out. Like I stayed outside on guard. Then we went back, and then Tome vanished, which was weird. Obviously, like 10-year-old dwarf kid is weird enough that he's walking around by himself anyway, but he just ups and vanishes. So we're a bit worried.
Was he walking through the doorway, or what happened?
No, he walked like he came back. We went to the pub to stay the night, and he fell asleep in the drawer like we would normally do. We shut him in the drawer because that's where Belgrax decided that Tone would be most comfortable. And Belgrax apparently knows these things. And then when we woke up, the drawer's out, and he's gone, and the window's open.
He
So,
ran away.
yeah, that's what we thought. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. We ended up being summoned by Strahd. He did not appreciate us insinuating that he'd had an inappropriate relationship with his boy servant. That was mostly Belgrax, to be fair.
Most people don't appreciate that, but he in particular deserves it.
But he did give me a silver plate, which was great. And that's this one on the back of my
Huh.
axe.
A vampire to give you silver.
Well, it was already on the table, and I was eating off it. He said I could keep it, so that was cool. like
Odd.
because it came in handy later. Because what happened was we ended up like in our adventures. We also fought. We ended up fighting some different vampires. We ended up fighting some werewolves. Were they werewolves? They might have been. Yeah, they were werewolves. That was the first time one of my spells backfired. I had this spell scroll and I tried to use a spell on them to set them on fire, and I accidentally made them breathe fire, which obviously was a bad thing. So I'm still trying to get control of the magic powers. It took me quite a while to figure out actually how to use the scroll. I was staring at it for longer than I've ever seen Jose doing it.
Spell scrolls take practice, especially if you're new to magic.
Yeah, I figured that must be it.
Perhaps you should seek the advice and training of someone who's more familiar with magic.
Well, that's one of the things that Richter said he'd teach me is like how to actually use this stuff properly. We haven't had a chance yet. Mostly, I just cast axe, but
A good spell to have.
it's working. So
Very effective.
yeah, how this came about actually the plate on the axe, right, was when we went into a church and we found that this guy's son had been missing. Oh, I forgot to mention, like earlier, we'd gone to a shop. We bought a brand new bag of holding. Now that might seem like a random side note, but it will come into play. Just bear with me.
Those are really useful to have, except for to be careful buying them used. I've seen far too many people buy them used and the inside's covered in a fine layer of coal dust, flour, glitter one time.
Oh,
That was fun. I'm never used to that bag again. Still find glitter on all my weapons.
oh god, that's amazing. Ah, no, ours was a bit weirder than that, but that'll come into play. So what happened was this guy, his son went missing, and we found him in the bottom of the church, and it turned out that he'd been infected and he was a vampire. And we only figured this out because we were trying to give him food, and I gave it him on the silver plate. And when he picked up the silver plate, he got all burny, and he started turning into this great big vampire monster thing. And he tried to attack me.
It's always tragic when that happens
Yeah,
young.
he's about maybe 16, 17, something like that. Yeah, he turned into this great big monster, and I smacked him in the face with his silver plate. Like you can still see the dents just there. It hurt him quite a bit, which is why I thought, I'm going to keep this on my axe. So I got my other axe out, and then I blacked out for a bit. And then the next thing I know is I wake up and the one vampire is dead. Belgrax has got his arm missing, and I've lost my axe. They told me that what happened was Belgrax took the axe off me and put it in the bag of holding, and the bag of holding bit his arm off.
Ow?
Yeah. So it was one of those bags of devouring. Yeah. So my axe went, but it's fine. I've still got this one. My trusty old axe.
There's a big difference between those two bags.
Yeah. But then what happened was we went up, we went to start leaving. Belgrax bloody from his stump arm, which he was a bit annoyed about.
No one
As you can
tried
imagine.
cauterizing the wound at all.
I think Kimber did heal it, but unfortunately it healed as a stump. We couldn't, obviously, because we didn't have an arm to attach to it.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty attaching limbs is very tricky and
yes.
complicated and doesn't always work like it's supposed to.
No, I mean that's why he ended up with just because we didn't know how to get the arm back. So that's how he ended up with just a stump. So as we're heading off, Belgrax in a bad mood because he's lost his arm. Which is fine. Like, it would have been worse for him if he was the type of ranger that used, like, bows and arrows and things. But he's more of a close combat ranger, so he had swords. So it's not too bad.
Perhaps if you find a skilled enough smith or tinker there, they can make a sort of replacement prosthesis for him. Won't be the same as his original arm, but it will leave him at less of a disadvantage.
I don't know about Prosnerness, but he did get a new arm at one point, I don't know if you got it from prosthesis.
Not what I said.
What did you say?
Prosthesis.
What's that?
Friend of a friend created it, I think. Oh, he created the term.
Is that what he calls the fake arm? Because he got one of those. I mean,
Yes.
your friend might be able to do a better job because Belgrax, in the end, he has like this. It was sort of like a metal pole with like a claw on the end.
I may know several people who could do a better job than that. Just question of if they're busy, if they have time, or if their city's been burned down.
With this one, he just got it done. Like we were stuck in the middle of nowhere, so he just had to make do. I remember he did say at one point he kept having visions from this hammer that he got. I don't know what that was about. He never explained. But that had something to do with like where he ended up going for the new arm. But yeah, no, as we I'm going off. What happened was after we got out, he'd lost his arm. He'd not got a new one yet. And we came out and the kid's father turned up and we said, "Oh, well, your kid's a vampire. Unfortunately, we've killed him." And the guy's like, "I know he's a vampire. I'm also a vampire, basically." And he was going to try fight us.
So, did it run in the family, or did he turn his son, or were they both turned?
I think he turned his son. I don't know. We didn't get a chance to ask him because what we did was, as he tried to attack, we stuck the bag over his head.
That's one use for the bag of devouring.
And like I grabbed one side, and Belgrax grabbed the other with his good arm, and we managed to eat the vampire with a bag of devouring.
Very creative. Might have to keep that one in mind.
Oh, it was great. We ended up using that trick on so many people. We used it on a different vampire. We used it on a butler once.
What did the
We
butler
used
do
it.
to you?
He, what do you mean?
When you used the trick on the butler, why? What did they do?
He was guarding the house that belonged to this witch woman, like witch ghost woman. I can't remember why. I just remember him opening the door, saying hello, and we put a bag on him. It may have been a case that was slightly overzealous, but it had been working so far, so I think we just stuck with it.
Not going to question that one.
Desperate times. Yeah, and then the witch woman, she was like part ghost. She had a daughter that was a cat girl, like there was half cat and half woman.
Odd.
Well, she was a girl. She acted like a cat, but she was a girl. It was very strange. She was a bit traumatized, and but she was a good kid. She was a good kid.
I can imagine.
But she was all right. We ended up leaving her with a friend, and they've ended up like she's ended up recovering a bit now, thankfully. So what happened was like as we're fighting the ghost, we couldn't really like my axe isn't working because it's a ghost. So we ended up being like, oh, here's the body. In the bag it goes.
Really need to get myself one of these bags.
Yeah, it was really useful actually. I don't think that fully defeated the ghost. It made her weaker. So then Kimber did this thing where she cast this spell where the moon comes down and like beams people.
Interesting.
She did that, and then the ghost went like, ah! And it like blew up. And then the only thing left of the thing was its hair. Now we had to get the cat girl woman. Like that was her nickname, cat girl. So like looking back, I probably should have remembered her real name. The others remembered names for me. I just always called her cat girl, and she seemed to like it, so it was fine.
Either she liked
So
it or she liked you enough to not bite your head off for it.
yeah, it's because they weren't sure what to do with her, and I said we should bring her along. And but the problem was that the place that we were staying for the night there in that village, the pub was run by raven people, right? And they were all like birds.
Haven't run into those in a while.
They weren't Kenku, and they weren't the bigger one, the Arakokra. They were actually like people with beaks, and it was like a weird halfway point, kind of like if you had like a were budgie or something like that, kind of, except it was like a werecrow, I guess. It's hard to explain, but that's what they look like, and they didn't like this witch or like anything to do with the witch. So we were like, well, if they find out that this kid is the kid of the witch, then they're gonna be really annoyed. So I came up with this great idea. So what we did was we still had the witch's hair, like it got torn off by the bag. So
Hmm.
we got the witch's hair, and we turned it into like this great big bushy beard and mustache wig thing, right? Cat girl, she wore the mustache wig, the mustache beard wig, and I passed her off as my younger brother.
Certainly clever and unique.
Yes, and I was like, "This is my younger brother, Hans, and we've just found him, and he's gonna come." And the Raven people were fine with that. They were fine. I remember later on, like after we ended up getting somewhere for Catgirl to stay, we ended up going to a toy shop, and there was like a little puppet of Strahd, which was hilarious. So we bought it because we thought he'd find it funny. I did. Belgrax got it purely to annoy him, and we went there, and then we went. Where else did we go? We ended up going, and we found the blue guy again, and because it turned out like we saw the tracks of Tome, so we thought, oh, we're gonna find the little boy and like get him back. And it turns out, when I was guarding him, that shop that he went into was actually run by the blue guy who ate him. And that's when I realized it was probably not the friend I thought he was. The blue guy, not Tome. Although both. Because the kid that came out afterwards was actually the blue guy in disguise.
Tragic ending to your friend, though.
I know, it's a bit complicated. It's a bit weird. We ended up fighting him like in a cave, and he summoned 2 demons, and Kimber summoned 8 bears. So the bears were fighting these demon things, and I leapt off the back of one of the bears and brought my axe down on the blue guy's head and managed to chop him straight in half. And it was the coolest thing ever.
Impressive. I wish I had been there to see it. Especially the bears.
Yeah, there were so many
Always wanted to
bears.
see how useful those can be in combat.
Yeah, it was great. It was just carnage and bears. Before the blacking out, when we were fighting the first vampire before we stuck his dad in a bag. I do remember. I think it was Kimber. It might have been Tia, but I believe it was Kimber turning into a great big bear to fight the vampire son. Before I ended up like blacking out, so I don't remember much until I woke up and I'd lost my axe and Belgrax had lost an arm.
Another reason I enjoy traveling with druids. The things they can do.
Yes, there was one point where we thought Kimber had died, but she came back, but apparently now had a deal with Strahd, and one of them had previously had a deal with the Lich, and I know Belgrax had gotten bitten by one of the werewolves at one point. So I think we were searching for a way to fix that.
Complicated web of sticky situations.
Yeah, yeah. We almost beat Strahd as well. We almost beat him up because he turned up. I hit him in the face with the silver plate because he threatened us after Belgrax made another joke about him and his little boy servant. So he was like, "Oh, stop making those jokes, or I will kill you all." And I was like, "Well, you can try." So he came forward, and I smacked him with the pan, with the pan, with a plate, with a silver plate. Like, and we almost got him, but he vanished.
Howard likes to run
And
off when things are not turning his way, I've noticed. Particularly tricky little
yeah,
sneak.
from there we actually ended up splitting up a bit to try and figure out where else we could go to try and figure out what to do about that. So I'm still trying to help figure out what forces we can muster to help defeat all of this. Like, because Strahd has something to do with a big dragon and the Lich, and it's all tied together somehow. Kimbertier and Belgrax went one way to try and find out something, and I ended up going the other way. The plan was they were splitting up a bit further on as well. I haven't been able to get in contact with them since, so I'm hoping they're all right. I've been asking Rick to see if we can keep an eye on them, and like whenever he scries on them, he says that they're okay and they're still
Not
doing
quite
stuff.
the same as seeing with your own eyes.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying to learn the magic, is so I can do it myself.
Tricky thing to learn.
It is. I've been told that many a time, which is probably explains why I'm still struggling with stuff. But yeah, no. After a while, I ended up meeting up with Rictus, and we went on a few different adventures together. There was one where we went into this old house that was it used to belong to this. There was this old. He's like a wizard, but he can. I guess he'd just be a wizard. He had the spells and stuff, but he'd like make weapons and enchant them and like amulets and things like that. And like this fella, he was called Nerbo Male, and we went into his we found his house because Rictus was trying to find specific ingredients for this spell that he said, like this weird mixture, and he said it's very important. But we ended up getting chased off by these great big insect things that were in the cellar. Two great big hulking insect thingamabobs, and I remember Rictus. He knew exactly what it was, but he never told. He was like, "Quick, get it!" And like, unfortunately, they were a bit too strong for just the two of us, so we had to ask another adventuring party that was happening through the same area in where was it? It was Blencathra, yeah. So we were there in Blencathra, and there was this other adventuring party. There was a wizard named Alwyn. No, wizard? He looked like a wizard. He had magic, anyway. And then there was, at the time, there was another one. There was this orc fella named Kerry, and there was a I keep running into druids. There was another druid named Kethra. We ended up getting them to help out. I don't remember. Did they have a fourth one? They may have had. There was. Remember a Goliath. No, I remember they said they had a friend of theirs that was a Goliath fighter who had disappeared at one point, who'd gone off to find his old tribe. But at the time, they had this lad with them who was he was training in like stealth and things like that. So he was good at sneaking, and not in a thief way. It was more like he was training up to be kind of like an assassin type thing. It's what he was working on when he left the war band that he was in, because he'd unfortunately grown up with these ruffians, basically. Good thing was he saw sense, and he ended up helping the townsfolk, and that's why he ended up joining them on this journey to try and get this stuff for Rictus, which was great. They managed to get that and come back. Luckily, we got to relax for a bit.
It's nice when you get to take a break in the middle of an adventure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like afterwards, Rictus made his stuff. By the looks of it, he was maybe exaggerating how important it was, because he turned it into this weird powder. He's been snorting it for the past like week and a half.
He's been doing what
Uh,
with it?
like you lay it on the table and then you like sniff it up your nose. He's been doing that. Like I've never got into that sort of thing, but Rictus he's a bit kooky, that one.
Probably not a good habit for them to be getting in.
Well, he apparently knows what he's doing, so
Or so he says.
just leave him to it, to be honest. But he does know his way around things. I mean, like afterwards, we said our goodbyes, and Rictus used his spell thing that makes the door where you can walk through into different places.
Very useful spell.
So we traveled a few different places, and then like he said, he had to go off and do something quickly. He didn't mention what. He just said, "Oh, wait here, and I'll be back in a minute." And that's the last I saw him. I'm here, so yeah, it's
Hopefully he will be back before too long.
I've won the tavern's drinking competition while waiting for him, which is great.
You beat the highest record?
Yeah, which is awesome. They gave me this silver token that lets me get free drinks for. I think he said I've still got to pay for some of them, but like every third drink I get is free while I have this, and I get through plenty of drinks. So
Adds up to some savings, I can imagine.
yeah, and I'm gonna have that until they have the next drinking competition, and the next winner gets it. I asked him like, how do I return it if I'm not here? And he said, don't worry about it. So I don't know.
There's a magic to it, I believe, where I don't know exactly how he knows it's no longer valid, but I don't question it.
Do you want to have a look? It's got this weird rainbow shine to it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yes, does look to be
Bit-
enchanted indeed. Some sort of enchantment, not super complicated, but not something you can fool.
No.
Impressive work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've definitely got my fill out of this. Like I said, so far, no one's beaten me yet. But they'll always be there. Like I said, it's only been a little bit, so I mean, they're probably not going to hold another one for because we've been here before. You see, like
Oh, yes.
so I won it last time I was here, and then we were sort of made this our home base, and Rick has been me and him have been sort of like flitting out and about and doing things, coming back, doing things, coming back. And then it's just this latest one where he's like, "Oh, I need to do something by myself," and it's down in the capital somewhere. The main Wizards Guild or something like that. Yeah, I mean, he normally doesn't get involved because he's not technically a wizard. He's sort of like
A sorcerer?
no,
Or a warlock?
kind of like he's got bits of wizard like stuff, but mainly he fights with his gun. He's got one of those like it's like oh, you know, like the gunpowder. Oh, what are they called? Not seen many people using them, to be honest. They're like
There aren't many people who know of them, much less how to use them, but
yeah, it's kind of like that, but he's like enchanted it. So instead of it having to use gunpowder and things, it sort of like channels his magic abilities, if that makes sense. This is how he explained it. So it's kind of like a magic focus, kind of like my hat does. That's how he said.
you're telling me he has found a way to turn a gun into a sort of arcane focus.
Yeah, I guess. Like I said, he's a weird one.
I have to speak to him about that, because just the possibilities behind that could have a very large impact.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why he doesn't like going back to the wizard place because they all told him off. Apparently, in where we come from, right? Because
Yes.
that's the other thing he taught me. Because I explained my story to him and things, and he explained how like there's different realms and things like that. Which I remember my brother Fenrik talking about like ages ago, but I always thought it was just like tales or to explain like here's where this creature comes from and here's where that creature comes from and not many people go there.
No, it's true.
Yeah, apparently so. I didn't realize how easy. I always thought they were like pretty separate barriers, you know, like between the different places. But
Not particularly.
Rictus was saying that actually they can sort of like weave in and out of each other, which is why we end up at like we've actually been to like in our different places. We've been to like the different realms and things, but we've also been to like different material planes. Is what he said. I don't know if that's true. He could have been bullshitting.
Definitely impossible. Not easy, but possible.
Yeah, he's like I said, weird one. But where like the country where we come from anyway. Like he was with the other wizards. This is what he said anyway. And he had a falling out with them because the leader, I think he said his name was Philip. They'd had an argument because obviously, like you said, the making an arcane focus out of out of a gun is probably a bad idea.
Yes, depending on who uses it and how you use it, and what you do with the information on how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, Rictus, he said, like when I asked, how does it work? He said, magic goes in and shoot comes out. He's never explained it further than that, really. He just said, made it myself.
Probably a good thing, otherwise some of my friends would know about him and
Yeah, other than me and like the wizards he already knows, he's never really mentioned it to anyone. Or like, if they tried to ask, he's been like, yeah, no, you're not allowed to know. Which I guess, like, he does seem like he comes across as I'll be honest, he is like, he can be a bit of a dick sometimes, but that's why I like him. He's fun.
it's an unfortunate quality found in most wizards.
Yeah. But
when you can bend the forces of the universe, that doesn't mean you don't have to be nice.
yeah, like deep down, he seems like a good dude. It may not seem it from the tales I've been telling, but usually I'm a good judge of character. I mean, unless you're big and blue or a lich, or which I probably should have seen coming. But maybe I trust things too.
Yes, rule number one of going on an adventure: never trust a lich.
Yeah.
Even if you try and like cast Zone of Truth, they have a unfortunate habit of escaping that rather easily. I saw someone try it once. I still didn't trust him, but of course he did. Turns out it didn't work. It's a very sad shame. His family was slightly torn up about it. Not too torn up, though.
Yeah.
He was kind of a jerk.
Ooh, he doesn't sound pleasant at all.
Nope. That's why no one sprang for paying to have someone resurrect him.
Yeah.
Plus, there wasn't really anyone in the area
Oh.
who could.
Huh. Fair enough. Well, does that kind of lead into the great big thing that you said that you were having to go for, or is that something completely separate?
Something completely separate, thankfully. Like, you've mentioned the different worlds. Well, I tend to travel among them sometimes. Usually it's intentionally, sometimes not so much.
Ooh, fair enough. I mean, the one thing that Rictus has still not explained to me is he said that, like, in his tests and things, like, he said that everywhere has the same, like, planes that have, like, the fire and the demons, or the air and the water and all that. Every place, which is why you go through those to get to different places. But then when you go to different, like, worlds, they have different Feywilds and different Shadowfells. It's what he said.
I'm still trying to figure that one out
Yeah.
myself.
He's a bit weird. Like I said, this is why I just drink and say, yeah, okay. I think some of that magic's a bit too advanced for me.
Sometimes that's the best way to go about it.
But yeah, I am hoping for more fun in the future. I mean, like, I'm sure there's other things that I've done that I've completely forgotten about.
It's a very interesting line of work, and tries you might to retire from it, it does not always let you.
No, it doesn't. But that's where all the fun is. I mean, I've got another, 200 years ahead of me. So long as it's full of fun and hitting things and hopefully some magic if I can ever figure out how it works.
Hopefully finding your brother as well.
Yes, that's definitely on the top of my list.
If I ever run across him or someone who knows of him, I will try and get the message to him that you're trying to find him.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Know lots of people in lots of places.
Sounds like it. Especially with what you said about the world hopping.
Yes, it gets a little less weird as you get used to it, but still amazes me every time.
Well, if you do see him, let him know. I'm honestly at a point where Rictus has taken us that many places. I'm not even entirely sure that we're on the same material plane anymore. Because I started off one place and then ended up somewhere else and then somewhere else and then somewhere else. So having someone to pass on the message that does travel is probably a good thing.
Well, hopefully it will lead to something. But until then, let's have another round of drinks, and if you wait just a few more minutes, I think there's going to be some interesting festivities going on.
Oh, I'm always into festivities. Morale!
Have some mead as well.
Nice. Ugh. my name's Andy, aka Volts of Extoth. That's what I'm known as on everything, pretty much. The character that you're going to be meeting today is my dwarf barbarian Kildran, who's the oldest of my characters and one of my favorites. The other stuff that I do, other than general D&D stuff, I do have a Patreon, Volts of Extoth, where I'm doing D&D stuff and music and all sorts of stuff like that. I've got my own YouTube channel where I do that. I've got my main podcast, Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds, where we talk all sorts of nerdy stuff. And then I'm in a billion bands, but it's easier to just find me on Twitter and search that rather than me list the several thousand different music projects that I do.
Tales of Adventure is directed and produced by me, Brianna Toiber, as part of Pseudonym Social, a creative podcast network. The music is by Patrick Chester of Chester Studios. To see more of his work, visit his website at chesterstudios.net. Find out more about Pseudonym Social by visiting our website at pseudonymsocial.wordpress.com. If you like what I'm doing and would like to support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/talesofadventure.